I thought it would. Yeah, okay. Admit all.
Hi everyone, I can see that we're live, although it's saying that no one can see it. Yeah,
no, everyone's admitted now.
There we go.
Hello, good afternoon.
We're just letting people in. We've had new technical setup, so just bear with us a minute while we get everything up and running.
Yeah, everything should be working nice and smoothly now. Awesome. Should we get started then? Great, right. Thank you everyone for coming along to our second webinar. We were going to be going over GA4 heat maps and funnels. Big thank you to everyone that came along to our last one as well, and a massive welcome to anyone new who's just tuning in. There's many more to come with some cool and exciting partners and some various different things we want to talk to you guys about. So make sure to stick around and come along to the next one as well. So let's get straight into it. Hopefully everyone can see my screen there. Okay, amazing. Right, so I'll minimize this.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, it's not coming up in the window. It's fine.
Oh yeah, no, they can't see that.
No, it's all good. One moment, guys. Tate, if you could just admit.
I'll admit everyone, yeah. 1 sec.
Well, I'll kick everything off. Awesome. Right. So again, thank you everyone for coming. So today we're going to be talking about GA4 heat maps and funnels and how to read your data like a pro. So let's get stuck into it. So a little bit about the agenda. So we've got a fair few points that we want to go over with you guys today. So number one is the only GA4 reports that matter. Number two is landing page performance. 3, conversion funnels, both the path and the journey. Then engagement by device, which events are key events, crafting your own collections, heat maps, fixing conversion blockers, turning insights into revenue, and then a Q&A session at the end. So if you guys have any questions throughout this process, feel free to drop them into the Q&A section, and we're more than happy to answer some of them at the end. So first off, for some of you guys that maybe don't know who Pivotal are, we are a full stack web development and digital marketing agency. We started around 20 years ago, kind of in web development and in hosting, and then kind of very quickly expanded, I say quickly, over the course of 20 years, expanded into email marketing, conversion rate optimization, paid marketing, and really kind of just harnessing everything you need to make a brand convert and be successful and grow over time. So that's a little summary of us. Now to get into us individually as well. So I am James. I am the account strategy manager here at Pivotal. I've been with Pivotal for close to 5 years now, managing accounts, growing our client base, running around doing numerous different exciting things and working with some really, really awesome people and some really interesting brands as well. I'm also a proud cat dad. I've got a little fur baby called Suki at home, and I am a branding enthusiast. My background kind of started out in design, and that's something that I'm really passionate about and something that I get to talk a lot about in my day-to-day. So that makes me happy. Tate.
Hi everyone, I'm Tate Pollock. So I'm the founder of Pivotal. I've had about 26 years in digital, and sort of started to where we are now when I was 14. So I've been doing this a really long time, and I love it. I'm an author recently, so Everywhere Commerce is a book I've just released, which is a pivotal redefinition of e-strategy. So it kind of there you go. There's some of the book behind us. So the idea of that is that instead of electronic, I think it's now a time to rename the E in e-commerce to everywhere, because that's where it is. You can buy on TikTok, you can buy on Instagram, you buy on a website, in marketplaces, in DMs. So the book kind of covers end-to-end e-commerce, all the way from kind of brand strategy, all the way through to acquisition, retention, customer service, that kind of thing, all the way through to logistics. So yeah, grab your copy today or as soon as you can, because it's definitely worth a read, if I don't say so myself, at pivotal.digital/everywhere-commerce. And then also I have a linked and associated podcast and YouTube channel, which is kind of myself and Pivotal, which is youtube.com/ and then it's @1degree of change. as in a pivot. And that's the Pivotal Moments podcast. We've got some really good guests on there, including Alexander Randall, who did the forward for Everywhere Commerce. So you get to see an hour of me chatting with Alexander Randall, who founded the first ever e-commerce company. So it's a really, really interesting podcast, that one.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Just going to quickly admit some people in there. Right. So over to you, Tate, for this section.
Yeah, so I'll start off with the GA4 side of things, and then we'll transition over, and then James will take over and talk a bit more about heat maps. So to start with, I just want to talk about a problem with most reports. So when you pull up GA4, if you're used to Universal Analytics or other analytics suites, there's lots and lots of dashboards everywhere. And it's difficult to kind of pick out what's useful to you. The best thing to do is to understand what you need as a business to move the needle, then go find the data rather than go find data and then try and figure out what you need to move the needle in your business. So when you first open up GA4, you get all kinds of what looks like interesting data, but a lot of it's not as useful as you might think. So you've got the comparison here. So when you start to drill down, you can see, you can start to go into like monetization overview. You can get a focused dashboard with very relevant things all linked to each other. And in this case, on the monetization overview, you've got 7 key metrics. So just to show that the takeaway from this slide is 80% of the valuable data comes from about 20% of your reports, and vice versa. The rest of it is kind of like noise. So you want to focus in on the things that matter to you most. I'll admit a few more people. So just a little clarification. So you'll see this throughout GA4 and in other analytics tools. So to just quickly help with some definitions for anyone who doesn't have a good understanding of this or might want some clarity, the difference between a segment, a dimension, and a metric. You'll see them everywhere, and it's kind of is representative of what we're trying to get to. So what we've done is we kind of allocated them to something that we do know, which is kind of who, what, how, why, where, that kind of thing. So a segment is the who. So a segment is a filter that narrows the scope of your report. So users who converted, like mobile users, for example, sessions from paid search, users who behaved in a certain way, such as viewed X number of pages. So a segment is kind of a segmentation of an audience. So the who. The dimension is the what. So this is a quantitative measurement, and it's like what landing page was it? You can look at them by title, whatever, but what device category was it? Was it a mobile? Was it a desktop? Was it a tablet, a TV screen, that kind of thing? What country? So yeah, what traffic source? Google, Bing. So that's your dimension. And then you've got metric, which is the how many or the how much. So again, it's quantitative, how many users, how many conversions, how much revenue, how much engagement time, that kind of thing. And they all kind of come together to give you more of a concise picture, but there's some missing information here. So we've got heat maps, which we'll go into in a little while, which when you take the information from the who, what, and how to sort of help you understand where, and then once you understand where, you know where it is based on the data in GA4, you combine it all together, and then you can get the why. And the why is, as soon as you know what the why is, you can then start to answer the question that your data is giving you, solve the problems, and then increase your conversion rate. So the thing that we want to get to in almost in life as well, not just in ecom and lead gen, is we want to get to why, and then we can understand what's next. So that's the difference between segmentation, dimensions, and metrics, and then how they can lead on to further insights. So the GA4 reports that matter. So there's a ton of reports within GA4, and you can get to them all. And this is a really good. This is the kind of starting point, which is going to give you a lot of value before you dig in and try and discover more of the nuanced information. I think a lot of you, if you haven't already explored heat maps, will definitely get a lot of value out of heat maps because they're quite visual. And if you're anything like me, like visual makes a much bigger impact. I feel like intuitively I can respond much better with what's next if I see the visual. So when James goes through that, you'll see the difference. But you kind of need both, because you need to know where to look for what visuals in order to move on to the next bit. So the GA4 reports that matter, with context of looking to then go and find further insights in heat maps, we'll go into there. So you've got, I've said the foundations, and you've got 4 kind of foundational things to look for within GA4 that are going to help you discover or go find the heat maps that you need to then get to your why. So the first one, I'll just move this out of the way. One sec. The first one is landing page performance. So by focusing on engagement time by landing page, you can uncover which pages truly hold attention. Obviously, attention is the true economy, and it's why social media does so well. And it's, you know, we're looking to stop the scroll and that kind of thing. So which of the pages gather the most attention, hold engagement the longest, and that's, you know, where you can start to optimize. Because if you have pages which, you know, your money pages or your lead gen pages that you really need to convert, and they've got super low engagement. Let's say you've got a blog post that you know, has some random information on it from 2 years ago, and that's got tons of engagement. You can pull up your site and take a look and compare, and then you know, start to learn from the things that are working on your site with your audience, and maneuver them into the pages that you do need to convert. So engagement time is the biggest metric on your landing page that I would say is worth looking at, because like it's the biggest indicator as to where you can optimize. Then following on from that, you've got conversion path and the length of the conversion path. I mean, that could say just conversion path or even customer journey, but this helps you get a view of how many visitors move forward into the next step of your purchasing journey, or if you're a lead gen company, to, you know, become a qualified lead and submit, say, into your Calendly. And you can set up lots of funnels like this, but the view of the funnels are incredibly useful when it comes to, it's kind of like which landing page leads to which page, and then which leads to which purchase. So it's kind of like a structured view of landing pages, and then you get to an understanding of the journey of the user on your website. The next really useful view in GA4 is device traffic and engagement. So you get to see, with this, you get to run comparisons, and you can see which users engaging with which landing page. So like the first image there on the top left, except for by device category. So the useful thing here is you might know a page converts really well, and it might look like it's got great engagement time in the first view on the top left. But then when you split that out by device category, you might recognize that, say, for example, desktop is actually performing much better for engagement, but your engagement drops right down to like 1/3 of the total of the average, based, or the aggregate based on it just being a mobile view, which means that's the indicator that you can then use to optimize your page for mobile, both in speed and layout. So it's often a UX issue, and you can spot these when you're looking at device category and the engagement by device category on landing pages. So it's super useful. And then finally, it's just identifying, it's not so much a report, this one, but it's identifying which events are key events, because there's lots of events that get fired from your platform into GA4, and only a few of them are by default marked as key events. So add to cart, view item, purchase, that kind of thing. They're generally the standard key events, but you can change Calendly booking to a key event, and we'll go into that in a little while. And then you can start to measure based on those key events with a bit more accuracy and filter down. So yeah, those are the foundations and the takeaways from that.
Excellent.
So landing page performance. So we're going to go through. I've pre-recorded some videos because I thought it'd be easier than trying to open up lots of different windows and navigate through. So this is me kind of navigating through. So I'm going to narrate over the top of them and try and catch up to where I was when I was doing it. So bear with me if there's any kind of lag. It's because I'm remembering what I was doing. So this is landing page performance, and this is the first of the top left over here. So in order to get to this report, you go to reports on the sidebar. And by the way, this is Google's merchandise store, the dummy data, which we'll show you in a bit. So you go to engagement, pages and screens, which is nice and simple to get to, and you get to see your page path and screen class. And you can look at the engagement time and you can see what we've got here, but it's a bit trickier to read. So page title and screen name is a much easier view, I find, because it shows the actual title you chose as the website owner to name the page. And it's what would show up in Google as well if people were clicking on the search results. So you can see here, men's unisex Google merch shop as a page title has got a whole minute of engagement on average, which is great. And then you can filter down here. So here I've set up a device category filter, and in this view I can only do an exact match of, say, mobile, but just as a quick view into what mobile looks like, you can see how much it changes, and you can see the difference here. So homepage halves in terms of engagement, and everything generally reduces a little bit, which tells me that this site isn't mobile optimized, or that people on mobiles who tend to use this site tend to be in more of a hurry, or even possibly get what they want faster. That could be like a red herring kind of thing. So then looking at the other factors such as revenue and transaction quantities and that kind of thing will help show whether it's successful or not. So the next part, which is back here, which is the second image here in the takeaways, the conversion funnels or path journey. So it's kind of interchangeable, but you've got various funnels people will use to convert on your website. So say, for example, you've got someone who comes to your web page straight to a long tail keyword. They click through, they end up on a product rather than going to your homepage, and they see an Apple Pay button. So you've got view item, session start happening at the same time, and then they click Apple Pay, they purchase there and then. They don't even go to a cart page or go through any other part of the journey. You've got a two-step funnel, and that's a very specific funnel where you've not been able to upsell them, show any related products, or kind of guide them in any way. They've just got what they want and left. So that's one funnel, and you probably want to set up a view for that similar. What I've done here is I've set up kind of a standard, more traditional funnel, which you'd see on a web page, kind of going from maybe back for the last sort of 5 years or so and more up to now. It's changing constantly, and we talk about that quite a lot in the book, Everywhere Commerce. And so it's a good idea to set up multiple versions of this, and I'll show you in a minute how to open up the funnel in the view so that you can see if various people came into this funnel at different stages. But the way we set this up in this video I'm about to show you is a closed funnel, which means they have to have completed each step to move on to the following step. And then the data that it gives you is, as a percentage, how many moved on to the next step from the previous step. So I'll explain that in a sec. So to get to this report, you go to Explore, and we're going to go to blank because you can go to funnel exploration, but it will give you some dummy data right there, and you have to then remove it all. So it's easier to set it up from scratch. So this is where you would name it. And this is where you set up the type of technique you want to use. So in this case, it's a standard funnel. So we're going to just call it purchase journey for now. It could be purchase path, it could be funnel, it could be whatever you wanted to call it. Okay, so now we need to set up our steps. So here's the steps area. So we're going to first of all create the steps and name them, and then we'll set up conditions for each of them. So the first one is session start. That's just basically coming onto the web page. View item, which is an event that most platforms tend to send. If you're lead gen, it will probably be a different one, and you can set them up manually. We've got add to cart, and we've got view cart, and these are all if indirectly followed by. So as long as they are next in line, there could be pages in between, such as viewing contact or returns pages, but as long as they are indirectly followed by, Then you go to events on each one and find the appropriate event name, which is very similar in this case. So session start, and then we're going to go through and just add them all. So in this case, we've got view item, and we're then going to go and create a condition for add to cart, view cart. By the way, if I'm going too fast or if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll table them all at the end and make sure we answer any more questions. So if you do have anything you're wondering about, just jot it down in the chat and we'll answer it. Cool. So this renders out the steps, and you can see the various steps of my funnel that I've created, from session start to view item, add to cart, view cart, and purchase. You've got 100% of the people who've come into the site with a session start. Only 12% of those viewed the items, but 29% of those 12% added to cart. So that's how it works. And then what I'm doing here is, again, my favorite device category. I'm going through and I'm going to then look at the same funnel, but I'm going to split these different funnel stages down into device categories, so I can start to get an idea of each of these steps and how they interact with each other whilst comparing the types of devices. So desktop, mobile, tablet, and even smart TV, which is kind of not super relevant because it's such low numbers, but some businesses might be big on smart TV, for example. So yeah, so you can see here the difference between mobile and desktop on view item, quite considerable. Add to cart, again, desktop is huge compared to mobile, which is a bit of a red flag, because there are far less people adding to cart, but that might be most people on mobile might be using Apple Pay, in which case there is no add to cart. It's just going straight to purchase. So just be careful of that, because you might think you need to optimize more. You might be already really optimized, or you might want to optimize for average order value, which means you do want people to add to cart and not use Apple Pay, for example. And then you can see the difference here, 74 mobile purchases versus desktop. So this is actually, an indicator that unless there is no event coming through from Apple Pay, they've got a heavily desktop optimized site and they're very bad on mobile. And this is Google Merchandise Store. So you better go fix that, Google. So this is, again, similar to the landing page kind of report that we brought up in the beginning, but in this case we're going to run comparisons, so we can look at the data side by side for those landing pages, but on the basis of optimizing by device category. So again, it's quite similar, but this kind of information will help us to go view like mobile specific heat maps if we want to, or give us an indicator as to what page on our website or web app that we want to go and optimize on that device. And then later on we can look at things like speed and whatnot that would increase conversion. But engagement by device category is a good report to look at. So reports, again, similar to the first one, and again we're going to go to pages and screens, but this time we're going to first of all probably split by. So we're going to add comparison, but we're going to first of all change that to page title, because I find that way clearer to read. And then we're going to go to add comparison, and then we're going to set mobile traffic, web traffic, and tablet traffic. You can also compare direct traffic to organic traffic, for example, and look at engagement rate when they land on certain pages. So if someone comes from an organic search, like do they engage more, that kind of thing. But here you can see it nice and cleanly split, web traffic, mobile, and tablet, and you can see this is kind of across the board what the kind of averages are, or the aggregates are, of those online active user time and the engagement time. But here by landing page title and then split by device type, we can see how much time people are engaging. So for example, in the merchandise shop there, you can see a minute on desktop versus 26 seconds on mobile, which is huge. It's like a 40-second difference when people are on a desktop. So again, they need to optimize for mobile because they're heavily optimized for web, and it's Google. So you'd think Google would have this nailed, but they don't. So next is just to go through key events. So which events are key and which ones are kind of standard. And like I said earlier, this is if you've got a purchase event, a view item event, and an add to cart event, which are kind of the standard ones. Do you have anything else in your business that is a key event? And that just means it's a key event to you. And if it is, this is how you can mark and tell Google that it's a key event. And then you can set up reports and filter down quicker, and it will highlight those key events to you a bit faster. So you might have email sign up might be a big part of your business funnel. Like you might have to have an email process to get somebody signed up, or for us, for example, Calendly, and we're going to invite you as part of this webinar funnel onto our Calendly invite at the end, if it's a good fit, and then that will go into our GA4 as a key event, because for us, a Calendly success page is a key event. Got someone joining late. So here we're going to show you how to mark down events as key and also kind of explain a bit more about what they are. So there's a little video I made. So instead now we're going to go to admin, and then we're going to go to data display and events. And you can see here we've got add to cart, purchase, and view item. So those are the default ones, but these are all the other ones that the platform is sending over to GA. And you can see how where it's starred, they're marked as key events. So you can see a custom event there, San Francisco users. Because this is GA's, this is actually Google's GA4 account, I can't edit them, but you would click the star and then that becomes immediately a key event for you. So it's nice and simple, but it's just where to find it. So it's in admin, data display, events, and then you go to all events and then you can mark them as key. And then from that point on, they're easy to find, and you find it easier to set up reports for those going forward. Things like comparisons, you can then start to use those events there to like segment your data. So just once you've got your funnel set up, and once you've got your some of your custom reports set up based on certain landing page comparisons, maybe you only want to do a funnel with your organic and direct and ad traffic, and then you want to do another funnel that's very similar, but instead be comparing your mobile, tablet, and desktop traffic. You can set up those funnels, you can save them to your reports, and then you can then adding another. You can then go through in your library. This isn't on Google Merchandise Store, because this is you can't actually access it when you're using the sample data that they give you on their live site. So this is just a screenshot from another one of our live accounts. When you go down to the report section, you'll see library, and then in there you've got the option to create a new collection. So if you have a set of reports, and you can see at the bottom, we've got Tate's funnel. So you can create as many reports as you want, and then you can create collections and add those to collections. So these are like categories, and I guess these are kind of like products in a way, and they appear over here on the left. So you've got your business objectives showing here, generate leads, drive sales. They show down here as kind of folders, and then you can open them up. So you can customize GA4 a lot more than you used to be able to. And once you've got a selection of reports that mean a lot to you, you can jump straight to them every time you jump into GA4 and go to your own collection, and you can ignore everything else and start to just see what you need to see to run your business. So that's a really useful way to customize your GA4 account and get the most out of it. So really useful is if you want to play with a site that has a lot of traffic, that demonstrates a clear need to optimize for mobile, and you want to go play in the back end with Google Merchandise Store's GA4 account and not any of your own data, and just have a play, then when we're going to send out an email, and it's going to have this deck alongside with the video that we're kind of recording right now, and in that deck you're going to have a button here. And you can search for it as well, which is it's a GA4 dummy data or sample site, but we're providing a link to it here, and it just lets you, as long as you're logged into GA4 on your own account, it'll let you go into their account anonymously and interact with all their data and their reports, just like I've used to put these videos together and these screenshots. And it's quite fun, because it's like you can do whatever you want kind of thing. and it's not going to impact anything, and it kind of resets itself. So it's really useful if you're learning to go in and use that. And there's and James will take you through how to get that with Clarity as well, because Microsoft have a similar kind of sample area for you to work with live data in their Clarity account. So I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. This was me, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So really useful things to do and to be mindful of now that we've gone through some of the GA4 and funnel analysis is to look at how your conversion path analysis from kind of another perspective. So we're not going to talk over it necessarily in detail in this webinar, but in this podcast. But one thing's really important, and that is to use UTM codes and to build your URLs that you're using throughout all of your campaigns, so that Google knows what they mean when people visit the site. Or web app. So if you're using Klaviyo, for example, you want to put in your campaign source of Klaviyo. You want to put in the campaign ID and the website URL, and we're providing a link to it here. This is a Google tool, and when you use this tool properly across the board with all of your marketing, whether it's in your emails, your meta ads, your Google ads, as long as you're correctly building out your URLs and not just sending people straight to the page, then you can build out a really good picture of, say, for example, the user comes in going back from the day of the sale, 30 days prior from Klaviyo, from an email, and looks around the site, has a great time, but leaves without buying something. They come back 10 days later through a Google ad, and they possibly kind of browse around a bit more, and you've captured all of that user's data and both of those touch points that you've engaged with them with, and then perhaps they come in through a meta ad, or maybe they come in direct and they go and complete the purchase. Instead of attributing it straight to the direct traffic and thinking that's what did it, and just putting it down to great branding, instead you can see the whole journey, and that it was a football team, and it was not just one person kicking in the goal. It's Klaviyo, Google ads, possibly meta, and then a direct visit because you've got a good brand, or because by that point they've remembered you when they needed the thing. So make sure you build out your URLs properly using UTM tags and code query strings, and you can build out those query strings with Google's campaign URL builder, and it just makes it nice and easy. In Meta, they actually have something that builds this out for you as well, because even they recommend you set them up properly. So that's just there as a useful tool, and you'll find that in the deck.
Awesome.
Over to you.
Over to me. All right, let's go over heat maps a little bit. So like many people, I'm a very visual person, and something like heat maps is incredibly visual. Such an easy thing to read and such an important thing, so you can kind of understand the user's context straight from your site as well. So I'll take you through what heat mapping is first for those that maybe haven't looked into it before. So heat maps visually show how users interact with your site. It is essentially, like it says on the slide deck, a weather map for user behavior. So just to kind of briefly take you over this section here. So for example, on a click map, these really densely red areas are where people have been consistently clicking. Oftentimes this is a CTA or something that's going to take you along the conversion path or to some more important information. But we're also going to be touching on scroll maps, so how far users scroll essentially, and movement maps and session recordings as well, seeing how people sort of physically interact on the site, just in a normal sort of screen recording format, which is really, really helpful, kind of coupled together with everything else. So this is, again, as the slide deck says, ideal for spotting CTA blind spots, for content that no one sees. For example, you've got something really important on your site and it's all the way down at the bottom where the scroll depth is basically 0 and people are just missing information. So it's a great way to highlight that. And then design friction as well, that maybe you won't catch in GA. Perhaps there isn't an event for it. Perhaps it's just not something that's super clear in GA, or maybe it's a hunch on some data that you need to back up with something visual. Heat maps are absolutely for you there. We also have this lovely link here which you can click once you receive the PDF, once this webinar is finished. And this, very similar to the analytics example, has data from Clarity's site. much like the screenshot here, so you can kind of get an idea of how it works and the various different things that it does. So like Tate, I'm going to try and keep up with this video. I'm actually going to pause it here for a second because I really just want to talk through these individual things, which I'm going to then come back to later. So although you can view things in sort of session recordings, heat maps, and things like that, you can also filter down into things like rage clicks, dead clicks, excessive scrolling, scroll fatigue, which are all really, really important indicators that something clearly is going wrong with your website. For example, rage clicks. One thing that really, really triggers a rage click will be like a slow or unresponsive feeling website. I'm sure you've been there, much like I have, where a button isn't working, something isn't loading, and you're just spamming the button. This will pick that up, which is incredibly useful. Alongside dead clicks, which is essentially where you're clicking on areas of the site that you think might be an interactable element and it's not. That's a dead click. And yeah, a few other ones that I can kind of touch on as we go, but I will just press play here. I realize I've waffled while it's been on pause, and there's a bit of a buffer in this because this one session recording takes a while to load. But as you can see on the left-hand corner here, you've basically just got a selection of session recordings that drop in every single day that you can click on and essentially just watch how the user's behaving. So just give it a second to boot up. Nearly there. Here we go. Right, so as I mentioned before, this is on the Clarity homepage, and this is kind of a clear view of what someone's interaction is on the site. They've spent an hour and a half on the Clarity site, which is absolutely insane. I'm guessing they maybe left it on and went to cook dinner or something, but you do have the option to speed things up as well, which is really useful when you're kind of looking at data on mass. So now we have the heat maps as well. So this is what I mentioned earlier, where you have a little key down at the bottom here. You can see red basically means that people have clicked it loads. It's a super interactable element, probably a really important CTA. And then you've got more the blue side, which tends to be dead clicks, and often places where people don't click very frequently, or perhaps they're just clicking to scroll when they're going through the site. But this is a really great indicator of what your most interacted and least interacted elements on the site are. So hopefully this will move over to very, very thorough video of what the heat maps do there. Just going to try and skip it forward. Hopefully without, so here we go. So these are our scroll maps. So same kind of indicator color wheel, where red means that something's really, people spend ages on that section of the site. So you'd hope that everything above the fold is all the important information, all the important CTAs, and it's all within that red section. But as you'll see, as it kind of scrolls down, people's interest and attention tends to drop off as they go, when it starts to drop into the yellows and the blues and things like that. As you can see, it goes back red there because there's some really important business information that's clearly catching people. Much like you mentioned with the scroll stopping side of things, you can really get an idea of what parts of your site are scroll stopping, which bits of information do people care about. This is a really, really good thing to kind of get that from more of an informational point of view. So just to recap really quickly on those three sections of Clarity. So we've got click maps, we've got scroll maps, and we've got session recordings. All really, really great pieces of validation to confirm all of your data insights that you get from GA. Great. So let's go over a little bit of the pattern recognition framework. So these are kind of some of the patterns that you'll learn to recognize from something like Clarity, and also some things that you can filter down by as well. So for example, rage clicks, I brought that up earlier. So these are repeated clicks out of frustration. Next up, we have dead clicks. So this is where people are clicking on maybe non-interactable elements. They might think it is, they're getting confused, they're getting stressed out, and they're maybe not that interested, and they're just kind of clicking around. Next, you've got scroll fatigue. This is a really important one. We tell a lot of people, a lot of your core information needs to be above the fold on your site, because people get tired of scrolling, they get bored. People's attention spans are naturally rather short. Everyone wants to know what information they need to know within the first 5-10 seconds of being on the site. After that, people do tend to drop off, and that conversion rate will dwindle the more that information gets pushed down. Next up, we have mobile misfires. This is a really, really important one for those who aren't maybe optimized as much as they should be for mobile. So this is where people have clicked on an element, that element hasn't worked, much similar to a dead click. This tends to be due to poor mobile interaction or display elements just not sitting where they should be, not interacting or not as interactable as they should be. And this will really, really highlight that for you and help you make some actionable changes on your mobile site. And then obviously form abandonment as well, which is an incredibly important thing, specifically or more specifically for you service-based folks out there. We'll get an idea of when people are abandoning forms, not just if they come on a page and they leave, they're bored of the form. We can find out where they start to drop off. You know, are they getting bored after they've typed their name, or are they getting bored after the 5th field where you've asked them to explain something really complex, for example? So it's a great way of breaking down your sign up forms and really kind of just increasing the conversion rate of that as well. So worth paying attention to. Let's skip. Okay, so next we've got the 5-minute fix framework, which is essentially the kind of things that you can do to get around the kind of things that you could highlight within Clarity. So number one is one page, one goal. So each page has to have a specific goal. You want to be pointing people to do one main thing on your site, you know, whether they're landing on the home page and your main initial goal is to get them to convert to book a discovery call, for example, or buy your top selling product. You know, you need that one goal. Next up is an obvious CTA. We need CTAs to be obvious. We need people to see that you're able to click on it. It's not a dead button. It's something that's going to send you somewhere with the desired information that people are after. And make sure that those CTAs are clear in your wording as well, not just in how visual they are on the site. Click here, sign up form, sign up now, you know, real obvious actionable things that people can do. Otherwise, they're just going to get confused. Proof above the fold. I brought this up in the last slide as well when I was talking about scroll maps. We need to have all the core information above the fold, you know, within that first, you know, few inches of scroll for most people. We need to keep everything concise in there. I'm talking CTAs, brand information, brand mission, what you can do with, you know, your company, your service, for example. Everything needs to be packed in there as much as possible without bloating it too much. Obviously, you've got to find a nice middle ground there. Next up is a very obvious one and a very, very important one. Fix load speed. If your site seems slow, uninteractive, people are just naturally going to drop off and go to the next fastest website. So make sure you tighten that up. Make sure that you're running frequent audits on your site speed and are inputting frequent fixes. Next up is kill the clutter, which kind of goes, I suppose, side on side with the proof above the fold thing, right? Don't over clutter it. Don't pack it with absolutely everything under the sun. You need your core information above the fold, the things that are going to make people convert, and you need to make sure that that's consistent across the site as well. One page, one goal. These all kind of tie into one thing together. So next up is fixing conversion blockers. So no doubt everyone on every single website, you know, even proven by Google, has some forms of friction points, conversion blockers on their site. So make sure you keep your eyes out for it. I've listed a few here that people tend to struggle with. Like I've mentioned probably a fair few times. Elements that look clickable but do nothing. Key actions or CTAs that are hidden below the fold, forms that error with clear guidance or reset progress, pages that load slowly. I don't need to list them all off to you. You know, they're super obvious things that you can jump in and identify now. And if you know you have these, why don't you try jumping into GA4 and see if you can locate that conversion blocker in GA4, and then maybe with some practice, see if you can back that theory up in Clarity. And then that's when it kind of comes to turning that insight into revenue. What a segue. Mm-hmm. So we have a little bit of a process when it comes to this, which kind of ties everything that we've spoken about in this last hour kind of all together to turn it into something that's going to change your business. It's going to change how customers interact with your site and bring things up like conversion rate, add to basket, form submit rate. So number one is audit. Keep your eyes on your data, keep your eyes on your site, keep it in heat maps, you know, just make sure that you've got tabs on everything at all times and that you're looking into things that are actually happening, not just how much money your website's making. And then you're going to need to diagnose an issue. So you'll notice something, for example, a drop off in add to carts on mobile, diagnose the issue. No doubt you'll also come up with a bunch of other issues as well. You know, when you're looking, you tend to find things. So you need to now prioritize those issues as well in terms of, what's holding my audience back first. Am I going to change the size of a little bit of copy over making sure that my add to cart button works? It's an obvious form of prioritization there. And then the next thing to do is test. I can't stress this enough. It's absolutely so important. Obviously, there's going to be some use cases where you don't necessarily need to test. There's going to be some obvious things, like I mentioned there. If your add to cart button is literally broken, you're going to need to fix it. But if it's perhaps the size of a CTA or wording on a CTA or where you're placing fields in a form, for example, you're going to want to test that. So using a tool like Convert, for example, build out a test within there, run it on your site, split your traffic 50-50 essentially. So you can see visibly the uplift in that change that you've made, and you can back that up with further GA insights, looking further into heat maps. This is a really, really important thing to do. Now, once you've tested it, we advise using the Bayesian calculator, which is an impartial calculator, which will essentially work out which test, A or B, is the winner. Because what we don't want to do, Convert have their own built-in tool that measures that, but that way they'd be marking their own homework, essentially. I'm sure that they would want to vote their test as a winner, which is why we use this impartial third-party tool. Make sure you keep everything impartial. Don't let companies mark their own homework.
Like Klaviyo.
Yeah, exactly. And then roll out. Put it live, let it run. If your variation has won, run it at 100%, and then track the actual metrics that have come out of that, the actual results that come out of that, because I bet you will see them clearly in GA, clearly in your heat maps as well. So I've got a little bit of an example scenario, which I kind of alluded to in the last slide. So this is how you would put that last thing into practice. So we've identified something in GA where mobile users had significantly fewer items to their cart compared to desktop users. The working theory is that the add to cart button is harder to interact with on mobile, whether in portrait or landscape view. So then to validate that, we'll run a heat map analysis to measure user engagement with add to cart call to action during mobile sessions. And then we'll check in on clarity to get clarity. That was a take line, that was. Yeah. It's a good one. If the heat map data validates what we've seen in GA4, we'll either launch a test or then go live with the UX improvement. Then once the results are in, using the Bayesian impartial calculator, we'll then roll that change out permanently to all of our wonderful users and watch those incremental gains come in as we keep doing it. Remember, this isn't just a one-time thing. You need to keep doing this process over and over again, because that will just incrementally grow users' experience on the site. I mean, if you look at companies like Amazon, for example, I'm pretty sure they run like 100 tests a day or something crazy.
Yeah.
You need, I'm not saying you have to run tests at that velocity. Amazon get millions and millions of users all day, every day.
Always be testing.
Always be testing. Always be testing.
It's like the book Atomic Habits. Like little 1% changes constantly equal 40-50% change by the end of the year, and it compounds again and again. So compound changes through lots of incremental changes, super powerful.
Too right. Absolutely. So we have got the Q&A open. So if you guys have any more questions, feel free to drop them in. We'll just have a check-in. So it looks like we've got...
Yeah, we've got a question here. So what we've done is we've put together some questions and answers from conversations we've had with clients, conversations we've had in other, like in previous webinars or in other like events and that kind of thing. Things which come up a lot. And then we put an answer to it. So we'll go through them, and then I think we have so far one question in the chat. So do drop in a couple more. If there's anyone else who's got any other questions, drop them in now and we'll tackle them. Meanwhile, we'll go through these in a format where I answer and you ask, just to make it like less boring, because there's lots of text there.
Cool. All right. So Tate, how do I know if my GA4 is set up properly to track all of this stuff that you've gone over today?
Well, that's it. It is a good question, because this comes up a lot, and most GA4 accounts aren't set up properly. And even if they are set up properly, attribution is often out. So if you're an e-com company, you'll probably notice that your Shopify data isn't exactly matching up to your GA4 data. So with that in mind, the aim is to get it as close as possible, because you're really looking for rises and falls that correlate with other moving data, as opposed to necessarily the numbers exactly adding up. If it's better to get it so there's always £100 out, for example, so you know what you're dealing with, than to have it kind of always kind of intermittently out. So the aim, first of all, is to get it correlatively accurate rather than exactly on the money. But we also recommend an audit of your events, your conversions, your filters, because without that, you can have quite misleading data. And what's worse than not having data at all is working with incorrect data and making decisions based on information that's not right.
Oh yeah, that incorrect data could be very well leading you down a garden path. So make sure that is correct, otherwise you could be going in the opposite direction. Tate, which heat map tool do you recommend that works well alongside GA4?
Yeah, so we used to use Hotjar a lot. In the past, we've also used Lucky Orange. I think there was another one called Crazy Egg. Put two words together, basically. But Microsoft Clarity is free. It's easily available, easy to install, just a simple tag, well supported. I think Microsoft just want to get everyone in their ecosystem, so they're investing heavily in it, and it's a good tool. So at the moment, I'd say if you want a free and kind of enterprise level tool that kind of does a lot of what Hotjar does, but kind of more of what you need, Microsoft Clarity. And it can work on custom sites as well. It doesn't have to be an ecom platform, but generally speaking, there's a plug and play option within things like Shopify.
I'm pretty sure it's as simple as just adding the code to the head tag, isn't it? Pretty much. And to give some love to Hotjar as well, one thing that they do really well that kind of stands out from Clarity is surveying. So like Hotjar surveys at the end of a user journey. Some people don't like to use them because they can be a little bit invasive, but you can also get some really, really important information off the back of surveying, and also some really funny answers as well. People tend to like to take the mic a little bit.
Exit surveys are a good way to handle the invasiveness, because they're going to leave anyway, so you might as well ask them a question.
Exactly. So how often should I be checking reports or running these kind of analyses?
So if you have a really busy website, I'd say weekly or every couple of days, depending on how much risk there is in the revenue and profit that comes from that site. But generally speaking, for a lower traffic site, once a month is absolutely fine. But if you have a gut feeling you need to check it, or if there's a holiday or some kind of promotion you're doing, obviously keep a closer eye on it during that time.
And I think also probably worth noting, which we haven't mentioned as well, is spend some time naturally on your own site as well. Like outside of all the various data aggregate platforms, is go through the user journey a few times, see if you experience any conversion blockers yourself as well. Maybe ask your friends to do it too for an impartial view. But it's always a good thing to kind of add an additional layer of help and information onto. If I spot a conversion blocker, should I test first or should I just fix it?
Well, like you said earlier, if you've got an obvious thing like a CTA such as add to cart, it's just not working, or it's not easy to click, or there's some kind of issue that you just need to get in and fix it. There's no point building a business case if you as a human can't interact with your own website. So just do what you feel is right. If you've got time or you've got any doubt in your mind, then testing allows you to use data and be sure and know the answer before you go live with it. So why wouldn't you do that? So definitely A/B test. If you've got the luxury of being able to have a time window, if you're going to stop getting sales today, fix it today and worry about the testing later.
Nice, great answer. So I get the theory, but can you actually help me implement all this?
Yeah, so absolutely. We don't just teach this, we do it. So we can help you set up your GA4 properly. We can configure it so that you're able to pass that data and interpret it to then go and find the right heat maps. We can present them to you with findings and hypothesis. We can do CRO audits, which would have those hypotheses, and then we can sort of go and do the testing for you on that front too. We can do redesigns and run A/B tests against completely different designs. So, if you do want help with that, just tell us if you're stuck, and if you want to improve it, we can make a plan for you. We can also table some questions. If you email in, if you've got questions and you want to try it yourself, more than happy to offer advice.
Great, excellent. That's amazing. So, should we just have a quick look here, see if there's anything?
Yeah. So we've got two questions here. So, do they need to have accepted cookies to see the full journey and attribution source? Well, Yes, unless you're using server-side analytics for page views and for the session information. So if you've started to pass through session information completely server-side, then no. But a lot of kind of measurement protocol or server-side analytics only pass through certain information via server-side, and a lot of it still comes through the browser and through cookies. So if you've not got your session initially tracked with cookies, then it's very unlikely you'll be able to track it all the way through. You might just see purchase if you've got that set up. So at the moment, the most like if you've got Elevar, for example, installed, you're going to have a kind of a hybrid model of tracking setup. You're most likely going to see a large percentage, but people who don't accept cookies are probably going to distort that data a little bit. You can set up 100% server-side tracking. It's just trickier, and a lot of platforms don't let you get into the weeds of it and actually do it. If you have Magento or something like that running, or something where you have control of the code, then you can. So we've also got someone saying thank you, but we'd love to get a copy of the presentation. So don't worry, we're going to send that to you.
We'll fire it over. Thank you for coming.
So what we'd like to do here is...
Yeah, so we would like to propose your own analytics audit worth £2,000. Now, this is absolutely free. All we'd ask for you to do is book in via that link there or that QR code there. So one thing just to follow on from that is this kind of audit is best suited to brands who are doing roughly £3 million a year in revenue. However, this webinar is for everyone. Pivotal is for everyone. We would still really like to chat to you and perhaps offer some strategic coaching to get you to that point as well, where we can then start working with you on your data and offering advice there. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who came along. We look forward to seeing you at the next one. This has been a great session, and I hope to catch you on one of these again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
Pivotal note taker, isn't it?
Oh, it's a nice finishing thing that you've been on your mind, isn't it?
Oh, I need to click end event. Yeah, we just left. We didn't click end event.